How to create a successful conscious separation. I was working with a client, I'm going to call her Linda, and I'd worked with her a few times, and she said, hey, I want you to work with my husband. It's really amazing. I said, I'd be happy to. You want me to work with him alone, I assume? She said, yes, I do. I said, great. So I started working with her husband one day a week. I was working with her one day a week. And then it was like maybe 2 sessions later, she said, I want to separate from my husband. So let's talk about that. And I said, okay, great. You can do that. But let's look at how you're going to do it and how this is going to happen. And she said, I'm going to do it very quickly. And I said, I'd like you to wait a little bit. And she said, no, I don't want to wait. And what I explained to Linda was this. You've been married 15 years. Will you give me 90 days? And I can set this up for you. And she said, oh, okay, I guess I can wait 90 days. I said, here's why. You're not in 90 days, but I can tell you right now to do this from energetically. So let's get a good solid energetic foundation. Let me make sure your husband has an energetic foundation, and then we can have an open discussion about this. And she said, okay, I'm going to trust you on this. So we worked 90 days, and I got her to a place. What had happened when we first talked is she was very angry. Now here's the sad part about it is she really loved her husband, but she wasn't happy in the relationship. And the reason she wasn't happy in the relationship is she had real issues when she was controlled by men. Now, I don't know that there was sexual. It's hard to say. We didn't talk about that. However, in these cases, many times people block that out. They're going to complete blackout, or they just completely eliminate it or don't want to speak about it, which is all fine, but you can't hide the energy. Now, this is what's important. You can't hide the energy. The energy tells the truth. So Linda and I worked for another 90 days. We met once a week. I worked with her husband at the same time and prepared her husband in, like I wasn't, how do I want to say this? I wasn't controlling or manipulating her husband. I was teaching him what I teach about building a good energetic foundation. So you know who you are, you know what your energy is, and you have all of you. I'm working with a client right now, a fellow by the name of Dave, who just joined my group a little over a month ago. And he's just shaking his head. He says, I can't believe my whole life has changed so fast. He was very depressed, had some very completely changed his life around. And this isn't motivation, this isn't inspiration. This is understanding that vibration is what creates your life. It's understanding energy. So at any rate, I worked with Linda, and we got her in a place where she really understood, and she was in a very sound about what was going on in her life. And because of this, she more and more built her trust not only in me, but in herself. And the more she trusted herself, the more she was ready to move forward with this. At the same time, I had been working with her husband. He had a strong energetic foundation. So the day came, I said, look, I told you 90 days, and it's been 90 days. So now I want to hear from you. How do you want to do this? Because I now trusted her. She wasn't going to go just say, hey, I'm done, F you, this is over. She was like, yeah, I want to make sure it's right. We have kids, and let me just be with it. And so she sat with it, and we met again the next week, and she came back and gave me her plan of how she wanted to do it. I said, great. Speak to Daniel and have an initial conversation with him just from a place of love about how you feel, what's going on, and how you want to talk this through. But be honest with where you're at the same time. And she did. And I then spoke with him the next week, and obviously he was very sad. He was very shook up. He didn't really sense this or see it coming. However, she was able to do it from a place of love. I was able to work with him and got them both in a very stable place, energetically. And they were in a position where they could respect each other's perceptions, how each other person felt, and support the other person in their current position. He with her in the marriage anymore, and she was able to do it with him, and the deep sadness that he was. It then, through their conversations, they came up with an agreement for the separation, a trial separation, which they did, and again, they did all of this without fighting. And then after that, after the separation, it took, gosh, maybe another 6 or 7 months before they actually got the divorce. But they're divorced today. I know that the truth of the matter is, it's not the inability to express what's really going on for you and where you're really at energetically. The truth of the matter is most people are just confused. And once you get rid of that confusion, you can start getting some clarity to make choices and move forward in a way that fulfills you, where you're true to yourself. Another woman she went through a divorce too. She came to me. She had completely lost herself in the marriage. It's very common for women to abandon themselves. They don't exist anymore. They've given themselves totally to them. So these are some of the things that I run through, and I can go through that other case study because it's such a common problem. If you experience any of this, if this seems familiar to you, feel free to get in touch with me. Let's have a conversation. Go to speak. You just get on my calendar and we'll do a 1 hour clarity session, and I can help bring some clarity to you about where you're really at, what's really going on, and I can help you chart a path forward. So I hope that helps. I'm Bill Heinrich.